Hi, everyone. So excited to be here, especially with my good friends Kelle and Jason. I hope you know them by now, but if you don't, this will be a wonderful opportunity to get to know them. And you can know them better if you care to by going to their profile and seeing if there's some alignment and making a connection and then maybe having a conversation. So that's usually the typical way that it works. And today's word is promotion. I know we're all trying to do a little bit of that in all aspects of our life. And I'll swing it over to Kelle. I just want everybody to understand and appreciate chat's open. We value your comments. I tell you if you're having a difficult time coming on what to do, but if you're having a difficult time coming on, you're not hearing me now anyway. But just for maybe future reference, if you want to see future live stream events, according to my latest knowledge, go to people's events section or go to their post when it goes live and you'll see it and can engage. So with that, let's start off with Kelle. Kelle, so happy to have you. No matter how many Thursdays we're together, it's always a special Thursday when we get together. And love to hear a little bit about what's going on and your first thoughts on promotion.
Yeah, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from. And I am tuning in today from San Diego, California. So, hence my different background and no blinging microphone for those of you who have been on before. Enjoying some cooler weather, I will say. So, promotion, yeah, this will be a good one for so many reasons because that's a big reason why people are on LinkedIn, right? Is promotion in some way, whether it's job seeking, client seeking, knowledge seeking in some way to promote ourselves. And there's so many things that change. And we were talking before, and I'll wait for part of that to get around to you. And you touched on it a little bit about if you can't find the event, you won't be seeing it. Because we do notice that, LinkedIn makes its changes and, we're not updated on it. I don't know why, because we're their users. And I find it very frustrating sometimes, specifically when you are trying to watch someone's live stream and you can't find it. Um, I have been able to find it. Another way is through YouTube. If they're streaming on other channels, is you can try their other channels as well, which is the whole point of LinkedIn liking to have it on LinkedIn is so that people are on their platform. So it's a little mind-boggling that they've been making it difficult lately because it's been on other live streams that I've struggled to find. And when you don't know those little secret places to go, whether it's to the posting section or the event section of the person you're looking for, you're just at a loss. And people generally don't go back on the lives. They will sometimes, but it's not you're in it at the moment and you want to find it because we want instant gratification, right? So I think to start with, I'll leave it there because I have no doubt with this trio that we will go into a direction that no one expected today with the word promotion.
Well, that's what I love most about Kelle is her enthusiasm and her optimism into the future. So with that said, let's hear what Jason has to say.
And good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everybody. I'll follow on that. It's always a blessing to be here with you too and to join the community as well. And I talked to Don, and Don invited me to come on and join you today. And I shared that I have a client right at 9 o'clock my time, so I am going to be stepping off a few minutes early today. And I wanted to make sure that was okay, to not to be disjointed. But thank you so much for being understanding about that.
You
And
betcha.
my day got even fuller after that. I'll tell you later about that. But so I'm excited to be here. Great. Yeah, I usually do look up a definition before we meet. I usually have some idea. I usually come technical. And this one, I was like, nope. I'm going to see where this goes because this word has so many dimensions to it, and there's so much around it. We could honestly go a lot of different ways. Two major ways. There's two main ways that we can go. And kind of you touched on a little bit. Promotion to promote yourself, and then promotion like within a job as you're working. That's kind of what my brain went to first, looking at that. But I think it's all about elevation, to elevate. And so how do we elevate, and how do we get elevated, and how do we get acknowledged, and some businesses this time of year, it's review time for some businesses, and maybe the platform that we're on right now, but I won't say I know that. But a lot comes up around that. And like, how do you promote yourself? How do you put it out there? How do you make sure that you get recognized for what you do within within your business, you know, and that's the key is like, obviously, live stream. This is huge. This is a way to promote what you're doing, to promote who you are, and let people see who you truly are. We talk about that all the time. That's the beauty of the live stream, is that we show up and you meet Dawn, Jason, and Kelly. You know, you really get to see us because we're here live and raw for an hour, and you get to see who we truly are. So anyway, so this is a great platform to promote in many ways, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see where this conversation goes.
Well, we started out the right way because we didn't have anything to go on, and I love when it's just spontaneous and kind of as the wind blows. I look at promote as kind of uplifting, right? And you could uplift somebody from one position to a higher position. And promote usually means an action with a person, right? So you can promote yourself, but it's going to take an action for that to happen. You can promote somebody else, whether it's in a workplace or whether it's just acknowledgement and making people aware. By the way, Jim just did this fabulous thing. I want to share that with everybody. And in that sense, you're promoting them. So pro typically goes along with positive, right? So when you're pro something, you're an advocate for it or you're supporting it, and maybe you're the foundation for it to happen. So typically there's a collaboration involved, either between a person and a person or an action and you as the person. But again, promotion, a lot of cases can mean marketing, you know, like what are you doing to promote your new product this year? What are you doing to upscale what you're doing as far as maybe you're refurbishing your building and you're promoting, you know, a better situation and an improved situation. And if you look at products, it's always new and improved, even though you look at the ingredients, nothing's changed except maybe the box and the slogan. But maybe that's enough to qualify for promotion. So we've got Kerry here with his first joke. Why did the pizza want to be a comedian? To tell their cheesy jokes. Well, one thing about Kerry, it's always a safe joke. So with that said, and always happy to promote Kerry. And you know, the people who visit here, comment, and support are promoters of ours. So there's mutual promotion going on all the time within the panel here, outside to the audience, and extended to people we may never see or be able to talk to, but get the full benefit of what we're doing. So Kelly, I know you've been a big player in marketing and have had a lot to do with promotion. How has that kind of evolved over time?
Oh, wow. I mean, in my career, immensely, because it is funny to think, you know, we mailed things like back when I started my career, you know, having an intranet was like a big thing, you know, so to see the evolution and really in such a short period of time. And I think a lot of young people don't understand, like we've lived in a time period where, you know, we had to stop at those, you know, crazy looking contraptions on the side of the road that had a book hanging from it that they don't even understand what the heck it is, to call someone to say, you know, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road, or I'm going to be late, or whatever the situation was. We didn't have the ability to pick up and talk to Siri or Alexa and ask to give us directions or to send a text while we're driving. We had to do things a whole lot differently, including for marketing was much different. You know, digital marketing changed the footprint of absolutely everything, and social media. And I think people still struggle with it. Even those who have been doing it, you know, since their birth have never not had social media, because different platforms, as an example, just to stay in the lane of marketing and product promotion, product or service, is understanding that each platform is different, has a different audience. They expect different messaging. So if you are using any kind of messaging branding across all channels, you're likely missing the mark on a majority of them, because it's likely only translating to one audience. Because the way you speak to a LinkedIn audience is quite a bit different than the way that you would speak to an Instagram audience or a Facebook audience, as an example. There is a much more professional vibe. I think what 2020 helped change in the LinkedIn environment, which I think was a positive, is it brought more authenticity and people really sharing what was going on with them and not just having on their corporate, their corporate mask, if you will, and playing it really straight, for lack of a better term, very pinned up and not being very emotional personally. And self-promotion, I think, is another thing that has really boomed, is people forgot, and I'm one of those. I marketed other brands for my entire career, and then sitting in 2020 and going, I have never done anything with any of my profiles or any of, I've never done self-promotion. It's always been about the organization that I worked with. So self-promotion is also very important. And what does that look like? And how do we make it happen? And I want mine to look like this. Self-comparison is, one of those negatives of social media, because people are always looking at others. Well, they have this many followers and so should I. And it's like, give it time and just be you. And I think that's a difficult thing with self-promotion, is figuring out what that looks like for you. And it doesn't need to look like anybody else. And quite honestly, it shouldn't look like anybody else. It should be noticeably and recognizably you. And not saying what you think everybody needs you to say, or what, and I'll leave it here because I could go down a major rabbit hole on this one. It is a friendly reminder about ChatGPT or other AI generator that you may use. It's a great tool. I love it. I use it all the time. But do not just put in what you want and then copy and paste it into your whichever platform or whatever you're using, specifically in business, because we all don't speak like ChatGPT. And if we do, then everything becomes flat. There is no brand anymore. There's just, everybody becomes one big, one big message that means nothing independently. So you need to remember what your voice is, what your tone is, and that's about who you are. And that is inclusive of a business or a brand, is knowing what that is. The biggest disconnects are when we see people, and I think we actually just talked about this recently, when we see people make a post and it's beautiful, and like they say all these really great, cool things, but then you see them maybe on a live stream or an interview, or you have a call with them and their vernacular is completely different from what they've been writing. And you're just kind of like, oh, and you may not even be able to put your finger on it, but you feel it, and you just feel a disconnect of, this doesn't match, like something just is off. So be careful with that in what you're doing, and just, embrace who you are and be different. If you ever see a post without me having like a y'all in it somewhere, or there's just certain things that but that's because the people will know that it's me. Or my AI, I use AI generated imagery, and I always have the blingy cross on my hat, so people know when it comes through their stream that it's a post from Kelle. So I think there's a lot of things that we could obviously talk about self-promotion, but in marketing, because that would be, I think, a series that we could do, not just a show. But I think I'll leave it there for this time around.
Sounds great. Beautiful insights and a share there. So Jason.
Yeah, so much good stuff, and talking about technology, that's to wrap it up, that's what we're talking about. But you have to be true to yourself throughout it all, because technology is just a tool, regardless of whether it's, NLP that I do, it's a technology, or cell phones, a technology. You're talking about old phone booths, and people are like, what the heck is that?
Yes.
And things change and things evolve, and you have to be aware of that, at the same time staying true to yourself. So as you promote yourself, promote who you truly are. Don't promote something else, because then when you deliver that package, people are like, well, what's this? You're talking about you show them pictures of these fabulous cakes, these expensive, extravagant, and then you bring them some mushed up cupcakes from Safeway, and you're like, that's not what you were offering. That's not what you were promising. As an example, that's what we do with our personalities too. If you promote this one person, that's what always intrigues me about people that use, and it works, and I get it, but use marketing firms for their personal businesses, you know,
Yes.
the solopreneurs and stuff. I'm like, how I get it for the behind the scenes stuff, but when they're posting for you, I'm always curious, like that must take a lot. And Kelly, of course, you can speak to this, but it must be a lot of energy to make sure they're staying on your brand and they're promoting what you want. That's the thing that I have. Like, my website is very challenged. I'll just put that out there. I've been doing it myself. I've got feedback from professionals, and I've done it. I just haven't invested the $3,000 to $5,000 to make it the way it was, and that's a challenge for me. But I'm not. Anyway, I struggle with that, as you can tell. I struggle with that, but that's very important because that is promotion. That is how people see me. And one of my biggest struggles is giving up control of that, because that's me. And I take that to heart, especially with what I do. I'm not selling widgets. I'm helping people on their mental health journey. And so it's a little different for me, I feel. So I want to make sure that I stay very specific to my message and to my brand, brand as we call it. So that's something you have to be aware of as well.
Yeah.
Something that I would like to say, and maybe turning a corner here, but about talking about self-promotion. There's a connection I have on here, Lisa, and she's amazing. And she talks about brag your butt off. And I think that's a challenge too, is that we grew up, anyway, a lot of us grew up that you don't say you did good stuff, and don't be bragging, and don't be cocky, and don't be, it's like, and she talks about, brag your butt off, get credit for that. And so that's, I think, a struggle too, when you talk about promotion, is how much do you say? How much do you put out there? We have to, you have to stay humble, and you have to whatever. And I get that. But when it comes to promoting, you also want to expand and be true to yourself. So if you're not a big personality and you're like promoting, like, well, all this, and then people meet you, they're like, well, that's a different energy.
Yeah.
So I think the whole point, I brought that up too, is to stay consistent and be true to yourself. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, these are excellent points. And what comes to mind based on them is promotion is a form of communication. To what Kelly and Jason just mentioned, you need to be authentic. We talk about that all the time. And who you are is how you communicate. And also, who do you communicate with? What are they keen on? What are they focused on? And there has to be a match. Your audience has to somehow relate to you, and you need to relate to your audience to get a true connection. And the other thing is that Kelly brought up with AI is you're going from, let's say, the mob to an individual. When you go back to something that's just given to you on AI, you're going back to the mob again. So you're losing a lot of your authenticity. Like Kelly says, y'all, Harvey has his hat, right? So people have their own personal and professional trademarks almost, or marks that you say, okay, as soon as I see that, I relate to it, because not everybody's going to remember Harvey Tuck's name, but everybody can relate to Harvey's hat, and he goes out of his way to put his hat everywhere, has a slogan, see what's under the hat, and he ultimately creates a brand out of the messaging, where some people start with a brand and figure out how to message this. You got to let things work, and feedback is so important. And I think that's the other part with promotion. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't make someone feel out of place, right? You're intimidating, or you're too strong, or it's not realistic, right? I'm the greatest person doing this in the world. Well, that's a pretty big stretch, and the world's a pretty big place. Why not just focus on what people can relate to? I remember there was somebody I was working with in the investment banking, area, and a person was just ready to invest in a company. And the founder said, well, I just want to tell you something, in 2 years we'll be bigger than Google. And it's like, well, that's the end of that discussion, because first of all, you don't have to be bigger than Google in 2 years. And it makes me question your judgment or vision at a certain point. So be careful of what you say, because like we've mentioned before, you can't unring a bell, right? Once it's said, once it's heard, once it's written, it's in stone to a point. It's irreversible. And the other thing is give credit to the people you're working with and the people you're focused on messaging, because it's their comfort and their satisfaction will drive the next step, not your ability to share that. But here's Harvey. Harvey found
Look
us.
at the devil, the chap in the cap.
Yeah, love to see Harvey. Harvey's been a heart and soul of this show, and hopefully some of this show is transformed into the heart and soul of his show. I'm just the biggest fan of what Harvey's been able to do. But you know what's fascinating? Our cohort group just yesterday, we had Dave on with Carl, and Dave just got his first speaking engagement, and then Carl got something. So it's almost like, a lazy Susan that's coming around, and it may not be your turn yet, but if you see everybody else getting a turn and getting something, and Dave had no idea how people found him or got hold of him, but obviously it was something he did to promote what he was doing. Or I think another element of promotion is allowing yourself just to tell what you're doing can be a promotion. Usually people think of promotion like it's the big top, like it's a circus, or you got to be a carnival barker, or you got to grab people and bring them into something like the pitch slap. And
horrible promotion.
Yeah, well, I think we're giving that the name it deserves over time. And there is something to repetition. They say repetition creates reputation. And the more you say something, the more it gets ingrained or accepted. And then eventually people get it. And I think that's one of the keys, is allow them to get the puzzle figured out with the clues you give. Nobody likes to hear the punchline before the joke, and I think in a lot of cases, people kind of get out of turn. The other aspect, is this a long-term communication or a short-term? Is this today only, get it while you can? Or is it like, we'll have another conversation about this and build on it? And I think the two key elements is sustainability. Will this last? Can this scale, which means can this get bigger? And is this relevant? Does this have value to me and the people involved? Because if it's not good for both, it's not going to be good for either in time. So anyways, good to see you, Harvey. Look forward to getting together sometime, maybe the next cohort meeting. But always a big fan of Harvey. And if you want to learn a lot, follow someone who's doing a lot. And Harvey came back. And it's always good to see Harvey coming back. You were all a big part of what the show has achieved. It's all been about the joint effort. I'm learning from my friends. Let's keep sharing, caring, and learning together. You're so right, Harvey, because there's so few of us who are working so hard and really praying and hoping for everybody else, because everybody's success shows the way for other people's success, either that it's going to come to me, or, hey, Harvey, what did you just do to turn the corner? Right? Yeah. Or Carl. And when you got 7, 8 people working their road, they're going to go in different places that you won't. They're going to have interests that you don't have, but collectively you get the benefit of hearing and seeing. And, everybody wants to win and win together because it's more fun, and also what gets you there will typically take you there. And I do see there's a lot of times when people get in trouble, they get just enough help to get out of trouble, and then they're on their own again until they get back into trouble. That saying, go home with the person that took you to the dance has some meaning. And I think, having fun. So when you're promoting something, don't take it too seriously. Don't make it too seriously, and really lower your communication to what LinkedIn suggests is a 5th grader's knowledge, not intelligence. But, a lot of times people are talking about things that they're an authority on or had a lot of practice with, and they're talking to somebody who doesn't have a clue, and I think it's so important to start where people are and how they can digest something and enjoy it enough to want another serving. And I think in some cases, promotion is sampling. You put some out there, see what the
Yeah.
response is, and then you react to it. I forgot where we were.
Kelly.
Kelly, good.
Yeah, so you teed it up great there because I wanted to definitely go off of some of the things that Jason said, and you did bring it back around there. And I think we were just talking about this last week. Audience, know your audience about promotion. And one of the things that Jason said that I wanted to be sure to touch on, the struggle with an agency, which I think there's some agencies that are incredible, do amazing things for brands and have created some amazing brands. But it is about, one, it is about letting go, but two, there are agencies that aren't good about putting your messaging because they've found ways where if you're in this space, they kind of use the same formula for all their clients that fit in that space. And that can feel not great to the client because it's like, that it's close, but it's not me. So there is a thing about how do they really get to know me and to know my brand? What does the discovery process look like? And then that can be very difficult because no matter what ways and what went with what you were just saying, Don, that I wanted to also point out is understanding the messaging and this goes back to the knowing your audience. And generally it says a fourth grade level. It needs, taste the rainbow is a great example. That is touching your inner child. It's an impossibility to taste a rainbow, but the child in us is like, but I want to, I want to do that. So we're intrigued by it. So it draws us in. And even as adults, we still like that type of thing. And I'm using that as an example. So one, know your audience, but two is remembering, and this goes to kind of round into what we were saying earlier about being braggadocious about ourselves. But there's a fine line of braggadociousness, right? Is people don't like to feel stupid. When you're talking about things and all of these, statistics and I love me a statistic, but when you're looking to buy a product or service, you can feed me all the things on the planet that you want about how great you are, how many customers you served, all of that. That's not what's making me buy. What is making me buy is an actually emotional connection and emotional response to your brand, period. All the factual information is what we use afterwards to rationalize our behavior. After buying a big purchase, as an example, I'm one of those, I get severe anxiety with a big purchase. And I'm talking like a car, a home, those things. It's like, oh, and we use all the things afterwards to rationalize that behavior. Why that we did that. Oh, it's a good idea. It's going to be safer on the road. I've got warranty. I've got all the things. That's what we do. But it was the emotion in the moment of how it made us feel. Did it make me feel what's important to me? Generally an audience member for Jason, as an example, is someone that's looking to transform themselves. So your target market isn't going to be somebody that isn't in that space, that is looking for something different. And understanding that. How do you talk to someone that is looking for transformation? You're talking to them more different than to someone who you're just saying, oh, so what do you do for a living? I'm a mechanical engineer and we're at a networking event. You're going to speak about what you do a little bit different because you don't know if that's actually what I'm looking for. But if I tell you, well, actually, I'm just here because I'm looking for a coach and I'm really looking for someone that's got something specific, you're going to speak to me different because I'm a potential client. Everybody is a potential client. However, you don't always know that out of the gate. So it is about knowing the audience, knowing how to approach it, how to speak to it, and not keeping it too sophisticated. People think big words make them sound great. Their brands sound great. And it's like, nope, it does not translate to the masses. And this is, again, goes back to when we were talking about audience last week. I did work financial services in a specific area with capital markets where what I loved is we marketed to 3 different audiences, due diligence, advisors, and investors. And they were wildly different. Due diligence officers, they wanted technical, like all the information, like all the stats, all the sourcing. I mean, so it was like tons of research and very technical writing. If you gave that to an investor, like if you were like, here's our information on this product that we're putting out to market, and you gave that to an advisor or an investor, they would be like, ooh, I'm out. Like I'm because they'd be repelled because they don't understand it. People don't like what they don't understand. And I used to not like the statement to say, hey, we need to dumb this messaging down. And it's not to dumb it down, it's to make it digestible to the masses. Because again, we don't like to feel stupid. We're repelled from it. So keep that in mind of when you're being braggadocious about what it is that you do, and be proud of it and own it. But be careful with how you message it, because you need to remember, act like you're talking to a fourth grader and how you would describe it to them. And I know that sounds, a lot of people find that very silly and a little bit uncomfortable, but trust you me, that's a place to start. And then to end on this time for me is, Dawn, you made a great point, and it's another good thing. They've got A/B testing for a reason. Try different things. If you're working with someone and they're like, or you have a business partner who's like, no, I absolutely think this is what it should say, and you think adamantly like it should be something totally different, try them both and see how the response is in the market. So I'll leave it there this time.
Yeah, those are great points, valuable points. Hope people are taking notes. So Jason.
Great stuff. And hopefully I can elevate and promote this conversation. So some points that I wrote down, and this is a story that I share commonly, but this was a huge turning point for me. And this is about promotion and about my business. And I was talking to someone that's very close to me, and I was saying about, so I talk about, helping you discover and live your purpose, and, find your purpose and live it with your desired purpose and stuff like of that nature. And she said to me, I can't even hear that. Where I'm at right now, I can't even hear that. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know my purpose. I can't imagine having a purpose. I can't that. And it made me take a step back, because I was talking to where people want to go, not where they're at. And that was an eye opener for me, because, and I know that, but it was such an eye opener because it made me stop and go back to my roots. It made me go, wait a minute, you know better than this. You know how this is, and you know how it works with working with people. When I work with a client, I don't start off with that. I start at the basics, awareness of where they're at. So that was a good eye opener. So that's, to your point, Kelly, always, know who you're talking to, know your audience. A couple other points that I wanted to make is we're always promoting. We're always promoting. And it's, what are you promoting? Ask yourself, what am I promoting? Because right now we're promoting who we are, and what message are we sending? And you have to be aware of that, to the point about Dave getting a speaking gig where he was like, I'm not even sure. He was promoting as he was talking to people, as he was on your show and doing other shows and doing other things and being out on social media. He was promoting himself, and someone saw that and said, I want to buy that. I'll take 2 Daves to go.
Yes.
And so we have to be aware of that. So ask yourself, what are you promoting? What truly are you doing? And I just had an instance with that once again. I love sharing my situations because it's personal to me, but also because hopefully people can learn from it, not the way that I had to. So I love that I am the art and the science of what I do. And there's very technical aspects to it. To your point, Kelly, I try not to talk about it too much. I do try to share some occasionally, so I can kind of say, hey, I am an expert. I do know my stuff. Yeah. But then I do try to make it more personable and more relatable, and I tell story and metaphor and stuff like that for the most part.
Love that.
But I taught a 1 day of a 2 day retreat I was sharing with Dawn this weekend. And I've just started working with this group that puts this retreat on, and she knows me pretty well. We've had some conversations, and she was introducing me, and she said, Jason's really the technical side, and he knows all this stuff. And I was like, well, I am, but I'm also heart-centered. I'm also very, and that's who I am. But guess what? Guess what I was promoting? my technical knowledge, that I know
Mm,
all the ins and outs, that I know the nuts and bolts. And so I was
yeah.
like, okay. And I know that because I share that side of me. I am not sharing that fully yet. And that's something I'm working on. So so it made me step back and go, well, you know that you're not truly sharing that you're a healer. You're stepping with the NLP and the polyvagal theory and stuff like that. So guess what? We have a saying in NLP: the results of any communication, the meaning of any communication is the results you get. So,
Mm.
Don, your point,
Oh, I
promotion
love
is
that.
communication. So if you look at what results am I getting, guess what?
Hmm.
That's what you're promoting.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are great points. And you know what it tells me, there was a song, you say everything when you say nothing at all. And sometimes by not saying a lot, you're saying a lot. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but getting back to the people who are too self-promotional, usually what they're showing is lack of confidence and insecurity
Right.
because they got to talk faster, they got to talk louder because they don't feel they're getting heard. And in turn, they're turning people off and pushing people away. It's that a pregnant pause that everybody gets into sometimes, right? Where someone asks a question and then doesn't say another word until you say something. And it doesn't
Hmm.
really take that long before you fill the void. And part of it is qualifying, is understanding who you're talking to and what, like Jason said, where they're at, what they're into. It's better to ask some good quality questions because two things: it shows an interest in the other person, and people like to be
Hmm.
respected and recognized. The other thing is maybe they'll tell you something will take you in a totally different direction because you assume in some cases everybody just wants to save money, right? And I can save you money. Well, some people are looking for convenience. Some people are looking for luxury. Why does someone
Hmm.
pay a $10,000 airplane seat and someone's sitting two rows down for $400? Right? It's because, well, I'm sure someone can afford it, but it means enough to them to invest that. And just like any investor, you got to ask them, what is your goal? What is your reason for doing it? Some people are altruistic. Some people say, I'm just doing it to help you or help the organization you're in. I don't really care if I get anything directly financial. I know what I will get is personal satisfaction, some joy, and those intangibles have real value. The other thing I've learned in sales is facts tell, stories sell. Like Kelly said,
Always.
nobody wants to know the dimensions. I always bring up the guy goes to the doctor, says I got a headache. Doctor gives him an aspirin. The patient says, how's it work? And the doctor says, swallow it, right? Because that's how it works. You don't have to know who created it, what
Right.
ingredients are in it, what the formulation was. And some doctors will probably tell you that because they're sharing their interest, assuming either you know nothing and want to, adopt their interest, or you really are not there to talk. You're there to take direction and to follow direction. And people don't want to be led, around and directed. People want to have that, like Kelly says, that comfort level that people like to do business with people they like. So the key
Yes.
is how to become likable. Because
Yeah.
if you're going to be someone's insurance agent, you're going to be the person they call in case of a situation, and you want to make sure they're responsive, they're friendly, and they care about your interests. And
Hmm.
those are the things to develop as a foundation, as opposed to I can save you money, because that's pretty superficial. It's easy to understand, but it's not as meaningful. In most cases, people would like to pay a little more to have a little bit more satisfaction or reassurance, especially if you're dealing with things that are safety oriented. And who's going to back it up? How many people sell you something and say, if anything goes wrong, give me a call, and they're not there in 3 days? And then no one remembered the conversation. And meanwhile, you just bought it under certain assumptions. So I think having integrity, having the ability to undersell and over deliver, makes a big difference because it proves the other person right. Well, I was right in trusting you, and I was right in investing in what you told me was a good investment, which means it'll be easier to get my money next time for another investment if the prior one was a benefit. So I think a lot of people have to look longer term, bigger picture. And the other thing is, it doesn't really matter who goes first, it just matters that things get going. So sometimes a small win is easy to provide or low hanging fruit to the person because it says, wow, it does work. When a person knows it works, they're less concerned with, does it work, to will it work for me now? And I think also how you partner with somebody, how you become a friend to somebody is so important. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of aspects. That's why, salespeople make the most money, in almost every organization, uh, even though they may not have the most responsibility, but they also have the most risk, especially if you're performance based or commission based, because if you're not doing it and you're not doing it right, you're not going to eat very well for a while. So, anyway, swinging it back, I would think to Kelly.
Yes. So many good things right there. And again, it was like, oh, the insurance, so many things like Teed, so many thoughts happening is it all goes back to the feeling, because what you're saying, it's all about connection and feeling with someone else. And I do think, financial services, insurance, anything like that, you need to have a connection with the human being. And to go to even salespeople, because I've had salespeople over my career, like, why is such and such doing so much better than me? And we're doing the exact same presentation. And it's because people, he connects with people, and people aren't buying the product, they're buying the person. Like, it's never about the product, because you can have three different people give the exact same presentation, same facts, same everything, and people some people will pick one, some people will pick another, and some people will pick another because of how they made them feel. um, but I also wanted to say that, interesting things about, because it is all about emotion, how we make people feel makes them have the transaction occur. Is insurance is such a good one, and everything is formulaic of how they put ads together and how things happen. Like,
Right.
what on earth does a gecko have to do with insurance, and with a British accent where they don't even have insurance? It has nothing to do with it. And that's the whole point of it, because we all need insurance, but none of us like paying for it. It doesn't feel good to have to pay for something that we know we need, but when we have to do it, we don't like things that we absolutely have to do. In most cases, especially when it comes to our money, we have to spend the money on this. So you get a gecko that with a British accent doesn't really talk about insurance, talks about saving time and saving money. Those are things that we care about. This is a thing that I have to do that I don't like, but it's going to save me time. It's going to save me money. And I feel good when I watch it. That's what we take away from it. And if you notice, all other insurance company, because now there's the Limu Emu, and I mean, they all follow this flow. They all follow the same formula. It's all about making us feel good, funny, nostalgic, whatever the situation is. And it's about saving us time and money, because that's the voice. That's what we need to hear, because that's what matters really at the base of all of it. How is it going to make me feel better about the action that I have to take? And it truly is very fascinating. And the little side note, the gecko. Do you know what the gecko's name is? Oh, his name is Martin, and that is after the Martin Group. It was the agency that put it together. Little side bonus. But it. I think it's helpful sometimes for people to know it's a very complex thing to put together these formulas and these ad things. They look so easy, and it's because they work. And think about how long they've been using those ad formulas. It's because they work. Same thing with, as another example, late night, and I'm sure this is still a thing, where you would, you need to buy the Total Gym, or you need to buy the George Foreman grill. And the those knives, I can't think of the name of them, but wait,
It's
there's more. For additional $9.99, you get a free. and that's because they're playing on FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out, like pressuring people, and people are up late, and usually that you're in a different mindset when you're not sleeping and you're up late and you're watching this television that is pushing you to make a purchase because it's making you feel something in the moment, but it's the urgency, and that's a different formula. Which like that wouldn't work for Jason. If Jason was saying, hey, you need to hire me today, and if you do, you'll get an additional 30 minutes free, so hurry on up, you're going to be so repelled by that because it
Right.
doesn't match. And I think the other thing that I wanted to be sure to say that you guys both had touched on is your actions need to match what you're saying. So if you're promising me the best cup of coffee in the world, it better be a darn good cup of coffee.
Right.
And then lastly, I wanted to say, I found it interesting, as you both were saying, because we've been saying, you know, elevating people when you're promoting others or promoting ourselves is promotion. I mean, technically it means positive movement. So we're moving something in a positive direction, whether it's our product or service, somebody else that we know, whatever it is. And then I think I'll end, and we don't have to go down this path, but I was thinking is be careful about who else you promote, because that sometimes I get people sometimes that will ask me for a recommendation, and I'm like, I don't know how you work. I know nothing about how you operate in the business realm. And I just say that be careful with who you do promote. Know that you're promoting something that you can get behind and support and feel good about. Because unfortunately, we all have been in that place of, you know, where we promoted someone and then a little bit later you're like, oh man, they're not exactly who they said. So, you know, it always comes out in the end. So self-promotion in any way, even if you're fooling people for a little while, they will end up finding out. And it's just like, it's just so not worth it. Like just find your groove and own it and go with it. So I'll leave it there.
I think those were wonderful points. Jason?
Yeah, and hopefully you could hear me. I'm having some issues with my internet today.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm still with you. And I do, this has to do with my closing comments. And thank you so much. All right, thank you so much for having me on here today. It's a great conversation and too short as always. I will say to Kelly, yes, I have a lot of connections. I've met a lot of great relationships, and I have those great relationships because they trust me. And I will tell people before I introduce someone to someone else, I will make sure I feel confident in PR and what they're doing before I share that, because I respect the people that I referred them to, and I respect that I have a relationship based on that. So I don't want to sound cocky or want to sound over, because it's like, well, I'm my people. That's not it. It's like Kelly said, you know, you have to be sure, because it's your reputation too. So before you recommend somebody to somebody else, be very clear on that. And the last little bit that I'll say on my way out here is, you know, ask yourself, where are you promoting? And is where you're promoting working for you? Are you putting ads in the newspaper? Are you putting ads? And I've tried a lot of things, you know, building my business up for the last, been full-time 3 years. You know, I've been doing it for 15, but, you know, I've tried a lot of different things, and you see what's your return on investment. So what are you doing? Where are you promoting at? And like I said, you're always promoting, you're always sharing, but what avenues is working for you? And so like this right here, this right now, LinkedIn Live, this is where people should be promoting. This is where you show up. This is where you're genuine. This is where you have great conversations, and you could share who you truly are. And so finding that spot, finding that space that works for you, meets the people that you're looking for, and helps you build your community around that is a win-win-win.
Amen.
Those are great points. And, you know, I want to thank you, Jason, for sharing the time we have, and especially the wisdom, and look forward to you coming back and continuing to build together with us.
Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Yes.
And, you know, to kind of follow up what Kelly has been saying, you know, it's interesting when we talk about insurance and the Geico chameleon, or whatever you want to call them, Gecko, is that it's one of the few products insurance you hope you never use, right? If you buy a bicycle, you feel bad if it's in the garage and never unpacked it, but You never say, boy, too bad the house didn't burn down this year. I could have got insurance money, or too bad I didn't use my medical insurance more. And what's fascinating about it, they try to take a comical, interesting approach to a really troubling element, because nobody wants to buy insurance, but you can't afford not to. So, it's better than the alternative, which is, wow, major catastrophe, wasn't insured, lost everything. So the other promotion that also follows suit is pharmaceuticals, right? They have all these people having fun at the picnic and eating all kinds of wonderful things, and then they give you 20 different side effects that happen with it. And it's like they show me this wonderful family and everybody's laughing and having a good time. But if you take this, it'll do this, this, and this. And it's like, well, it's probably better to take the small hit possibly than take what's going to happen with that. So, one has to look at what element of you are they appealing to? Are they appealing to vanity? I mean, if you look at cosmetics and things of that nature, right? They're trying to say if you wear this or put this on, you'll be viewed better or differently. And I guess every day when we decide what to wear, we're promoting a feeling and interest. Decide today I'm country western. Well, people are going to start to see you with your cowboy boots and your fringe. If someone decides I'm going to dress up in a suit and a tie, well, you're going to project a different image than you would have if you would have done something else. Hair, there's so many elements, and some of it, again, is authentic, and that's just who you are. Other elements are a little bit superficial. Well, thank you, Harvey, for making it.
Yes, Harvey.
Harvey's actually doing 2 shows today to make up for the show he didn't do. And what's fascinating, Harvey and Kelly and everybody else who's been doing live streams, you start to take more control over it than let it take control over you, which is to say, you schedule shows when there needs to be a show, not just because you can do a show. And, actually, Carl wanted to bring it up at the cohort group today, is what makes for an interesting guest and how do you avoid having a boring guest on a show. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because not all sizes fits all, or one size fits all. And promotion is the same thing, is how do you come across and become better after you promoted something? And did that further your progress along with the other person? Because in order to get really successful, you got to bring a lot of people along, but do it in a way that's comfortable, easy for you, easy for them. And it's only the long-term relationships that really have any meaning, because you're better off not even getting going to get halfway with somebody, finding out they weren't going where you're going to begin with, and just hitched a ride or something like that. And the beauty of being with a group of people is you can let them drive for a while, right? They're going to discover things. If you hang in there long enough, you'll learn with them. And the people who promote people early will be the ones who get appreciated most, because everybody remembers your first time of doing anything, first time of riding a bike, who was there with you? First time of learning how to drive, well, who was there with you? And just like live streaming or LinkedIn, who did you learn from? Who was there to support you? In a lot of ways, what you're doing is not only doing something directly, but you're modeling for their future benefit. Because I know I wasn't born into sales. I was so afraid to sell. I remember my first sale, I sold a socket set for like $12. I couldn't believe the person said, I'll buy it. I had never had anybody, I was just so afraid, because it's first time. After the second or third time, I had mastered it, and I loved it because it gave you positive response. You do something, you get a yes. You do it again, you get another yes. Pretty soon, like, hey, I'm getting yeses. Where before rejection was most people's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said no. Why? I don't know. I got to do it again, or I got to ask that person, which is another good reason. And I think most people don't take that second question for far enough. Is someone says, no, I'm not interested in buying. Okay, not a problem. But can you help me a little bit? What was it that
Yes.
wasn't what you
Ask.
wanted? Or please, for my own benefit, tell me where I'm out of line or I should have done more, because I'll change. And I think
Mhm.
people who see people who are adaptable, flexible, or hey, I forgot to tell you, we have something that deals with that, right?
Mhm.
They'll say, well, if I'm not happy in 60 days, well, we got a guarantee and you can send it back, no charge. Well, maybe that'll help me. And a lot of times you can even ask them, what is it that's stopping you from going forward? A lot of
You
times,
should always ask. I think and that is a, thing for promoting anything in your business, your product or service, is the best way to improve or continue to evolve, however you want to take that in yourself, is to ask for feedback. But some people are afraid of that. They're afraid to hear anything negative, and it's like negative feedback is the absolute magic for your product, because anytime that you get that, boy, you tweak things and you will start seeing such a difference. Because if nobody says anything or you don't hear from it, you're having unhappy people all over the place. And what is that solving just by you not listening to it? Um, but that's the best feedback to get and the best promotion. And as you were also saying that, I think people make a big mistake too on not giving positive feedback to a customer, a client, whatever it is. Um, those things matter. People do follow up communication, whatever that looks like. Don't just have them purchase, they get their receipt and thank you, and that's the end of it. That's a huge mistake for so many reasons. Ask for feedback. How was your experience? That also helps you if you have a team of salespeople, so you can understand how are our clients perceiving each of these people. You want those things. And I feel, just as a human, we definitely, we don't love to have criticism. However, if we want to become better, we need to hear. And that's exactly it, to be like, hey, Don, I'm just curious, thank you for spending the time with me today, but why did you decide not to buy? Or what is there something I could have done differently that would have made you want to hire our company, or whatever it is? Ask. Because I think that's so important, because you might be surprised by the answer. It's never as bad as what you think, generally speaking. I think people would be very surprised at that, and how that can turn into such a positive, and how that person that maybe gave you the negative feedback of why they didn't do it, how they may become a client someday, because you took their feedback and you put that into your business. And if you do get negative feedback and you make a change, right to that person, hey, we can't thank you enough. We have had such amazing feedback since we made these changes, and it all sparked because of you. Again, you'll be amazed what happens, because you're just promoting back reciprocity. I did something to help you, and I want to say thank you. And you'll never know what that does. I think those are some underlying very important takeaways also.
Yeah, those are extremely valuable takeaways, because early on, I always had the idea or motto, make a friend, then make a sale.
Amen.
And it's a lot easier to say, hey, can I get you a cup of coffee? Is there something I can do to make you more comfortable now? And it takes their mind off of, oh, they're going to sell me. I got to be defensive. I got to be on
Yeah.
guard. I got to watch everything. Hey, this person's very pleasant. They're not pushy. They'd like to see if I can have a chair, have a cup of coffee, want to take a tour or whatever it is, depending on where you're at. And then after what you're done saying, it's like, hey, just for future reference, I'd love to know what it is that, wasn't there that you were expecting, or in that way. And that gives you a second chance, not during that time, but to say, well, I'm going to research that to find out the answer. and I'd be happy to get back to you on that.
Yes.
Right. And at least now it's like, well, you broke the ice. You couldn't go all the way, but you went as far as you were comfortable and you felt they were comfortable because it's a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a two-way street. Tell me what you need. I'll tell you what I can do. And usually where you meet is where someone gives something that doesn't matter much to them, in turn provides something that doesn't matter that much to them, and both sides end up, it could be like it's the end of the quarter, we got to move this product and it's real. And if I can do something, not with trying to build urgency, but honesty,
Mm-hmm.
got 3 left, I can let it go for 30%. If you're not interested, it's not a problem. I'm sure they'll move pretty quickly, but I wanted to keep you in mind. So putting the customer or the client or whatever you want to qualify them first, being that advocate to say, I'm going to be sitting on your side of the table in the beginning, just to make sure it's right. And plus, the other thing is be considerate of the people that are with them, right? A lot of times somebody will bring their spouse and they won't even have a chance, and they might be the decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, and by the way, I want to introduce myself. Or the kids are running around, or they brought a dog with them. And if you find some value or something of benefit, oh, your kids are so well behaved, or I love your dog. He's so, because you know how much it means to them. So what means something to them, if it means something to you, you start meaning more to them. So there is some progression, there's connection. And also, I think one last thing I'll throw in is your intent to when you start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my purpose. Here's my reason. Here's why I'm selling this product, right? Because I've been to selling every refrigerator, and when I saw this, I knew this was the one. And in other words, you've done the legwork, put everything together, and make it easy. The other thing is, don't make it complicated. Like, I've got all the paperwork here. All you got to do is sign and we're done. Or you can review it versus go home, do this, come back and do this and send me some of this and whatever. So, Kelly, I'll let you close. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the hour flew as per usual. And we could continue this conversation, and I know it could honestly be a series for so many different reasons. But to end on promotion is just remember all of us have the ability to promote not just ourselves, but others. And that's just by going out and sharing a smile, because a smile changes lives and can save lives in many instances. So please remember to go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too.
Well, I could never top that, so we'll leave it at the top. And want to thank everybody for being here today and making our day so much better for being part of your day.